Making Battlefield videos right now can be pretty difficult, mostly because constantly talking about things that aren't going well and are going pretty negatively just really isn't fun as a content creator. But as somebody who's stuck by the franchise, I suppose you gotta stick with it when it's at its good and stick with it when it's at its bad. So today we're here talking about the brand new delays heading in the new update, as well as some really questionable issues regarding new weapons that no longer will be featured in the game this year by the looks of things. So stay tuned and let's dive on in. Update 4.4 has been delayed, and this is something that I almost feel as though I was expecting. Basically they passed it towards certification and they found some issues and the delay has happened and we don't really know when 4.4 is coming out. It appears that it was close to being finalized, so that means that it's likely we'll see it relatively soon, but that means that the two brand new maps and as well as some of the fixes that are coming in this update, which apparently are quite important, I've heard that there actually are going to be some significant changes in here, are not happening for a while. Now, yes, on the one hand of things, this is pretty awful. Again, another update delay. This chapter 4, just in general, seems to be one ongoing, just huge fuckery. Like, there seems to be no clear idea as to what's going on, and things just keep going downhill. But on the flip side, yes, it's great to see that a patch has been delayed to fix bugs. I really do hope they go the full mile. If they somehow manage to release this patch in the next few weeks and it also still has bugs then serious questions need to be asked. But ultimately, you know, I'm all for a bit more transparency and I'm all for delaying things in order to get stuff done. Those are things that I think everybody can get behind. It's just happened to come at a time when the community is really upset about the current state of the game, and rightly so. You know, it's been a very frustrating experience playing Battlefield or being a Battlefield fan because the game is in a terrible way, and whilst these update bugs and delays have been warranted, it's just a shame that it has to happen at a time so contextually bad for them. It's not the first time Battlefields have had delays for bugs, but at the moment, at this time, it almost feels as though DICE can't deliver anything without breaking something within the game, and that's a huge concern, I think, for the vast community. As it presently stands, Tides of War rewards, rank increases, and 2 new maps have been delayed until next week, but we'll have to see how that goes. And again, we're still waiting on Al Sundan. Maybe there's a surprise in the 4.4 update that it's finally been fixed. We just don't know. So again, potentially 2 to 3 maps coming, but it's going to take some time. And hopefully, with a touch of luck, there won't be any issues with this update. Now here comes the crazy part of all of this, and that is that some of the brand new weapons have been delayed until Chapter 6, so potentially 2020 and beyond, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not very hopeful that they will even release at all. Now they've said that they're committed to these guns coming, but the description and explanation as to how and why this has happened is truly mind-boggling. Like, this is actually just, I know this sounds awful, but this is common sense. How this managed to happen at this game level in a AAA multiplayer title is absolutely mind-bending. So to cut a long story short, the Breda and the Panzerbruch will be coming in update 4.4, and the Mazdan is scheduled for 4.6, but the Shorchat, Ilka 37, K31, Wellrod, Bazooka, and some of the other guns shown up, as well as the Shorchat, are completely delayed. They're delayed until 2020, and the reason for this is because they were specifically designed for 5v5 and co-op modes, and didn't have specializations, special assignments, spec trees, or skins that would be required for them to be in Battlefield 5 Vanilla. So effectively, these guns were designed with the intention that they would only ever be in 5v5. Now the likelihood being that somewhere down the line they could port it into the vanilla game, but ultimately it would only count in the 5v5 mode, and this is mind-boggling stuff. So just to dive into some of the layers of questions that this decision has, well, at first glance, why was something including content only designed for a specific mode? Like, these guns, if they're in 5v5, which is multiplayer, they should be in multiplayer, which is also in vanilla. It's completely crazy. These were designed for a specific mode and are code-wise, or at least engine-wise, completely incapable of being copied over into Battlefield 5 straight away. It really is mental that this design decision, or however this decision came to fruition, has actually happened. Like, content was made and walled behind a specific mode which ended up being cancelled anyway, so effectively that content has now been withdrawn until 2020. So that's just insane off the bat. Like, the fact that something couldn't be as simple as, oh, you know, it's in 5v5, which is multiplayer, it's also in multiplayer, which is normal multiplayer. The fact that that isn't something that is happening either from a design standpoint or an engine standpoint is just truly strange. It's crazy to me that at a decision standpoint, somebody decided that something should be exclusive to a 5v5 mode, but also shouldn't be in vanilla game. When you say that these weapons are coming in a certain chapter, or there is the promise that these weapons are coming, nobody's expecting them to be walled off behind a specific mode. That would be like me saying, well, you can only use the LMGs if you're playing Conquest. It doesn't really make any sense. And at this point, I really do feel as though whatever's happening, regardless of decision making, engine, or anything between, DICE are really creating their own problems. The fact that this actually happened in a AAA game development process for DLC content that is free is mind-bending. That would be like Fortnite saying, oh, by the way, you can only try these 5 or 6 different weapons if you play a certain smaller scale mode, and that just doesn't really make any sense. But also this raises something that I am seeing more and more. Not only is this patch being delayed because there is worries about bugs and issues in between that, but also the fact that the 5v5 mode was so convoluted and so different that you actually physically engine-wise couldn't port the guns over to the multiplayer game relatively simplistically is crazy. Like, the fact that that isn't just a default option, you know, you feel like this is a live service. This was a live service where people thought, you know, a gun would be introduced to the game, and if it was broken, they'd turn it off and refine it and turn it back on again. But instead, we have a game that delivered 4 or 5 different weapons in a mode that completely sealed it off from the rest of the game and the rest of the engine, so that it couldn't be in traditional multiplayer. And I really am astounded that that even happened. Like, at what point did somebody say, you know what, that's a bad idea, guys? Like, that surely somebody would have said that. I really do feel sorry for the developers at DICE to a degree, because at some points, you know, I do have to say that I'm worried that these decisions were pushed through, and it does question what's really happening over there, but at the same time, they're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't right now. You know, if they didn't delay the patch and release something broken, people would be mad. If they delay the patch because it's broken, people will be mad. Now, of course, the third alternative is that this patch works flawlessly and, you know, just releases like any other AAA game, but you know, I feel like we're so far past that point now. And I really do hope we can return to a point in the game where it's just as simple as, oh, here's a patch, oh, something's broken, we'll patch it next week, it'll be fine. That was kind of the anticipation for this game, and when the updated cadence of updates and all of these improvements were made in terms of live service and how frequently Battlefield would change, I think this was the expectation everybody had. I also feel really sorry for the guys over in the community teams who are dropping all of this information, and I do feel as though Battlefield is probably the lowest it's ever been, and I'm not just talking in terms of games, I'm talking in terms of franchise. Like, this is a really low point for a AAA game, and I kind of feel bad for them in the sense that they're constantly having to deliver this bad news, and I would much rather Battlefield released every single bad fuckery piece of news that they've got, every delay, everything that potentially could be happening over the next few months, and just throw it on the page and just say, hey guys, you know what? Here's the situation we're in, we're sorry we're in this situation, and here's what's going to happen, because only then, and only then, can you start building a redemption arc. It kind of fascinates me as well in the sense that, you know, people are really hoping that Battlefield does a Battlefront. You know, we're really hoping that somewhere down the line they release this update that makes so many great fixes, produces new content. I think a lot of us are looking towards the Pacific as that being that thing. But what really worries me, and this is something that I find kind of crazy, is as far as we're aware, the team at DICE, in terms of how it's split, there are less people working on Battlefront 2 that are creating more consistent and reasonable updates than those who are working on Battlefield 5. There are more people working on Battlefield 5, but there are more problems. And I really do wonder, and honestly, it feels as though it's the only explanation for why this game is how it is that Battlefield 5 was rushed. Is that somewhere down the line, there was a game that was supposed to come out, or that another development team were working on something else that was supposed to come out this year, or the year before, and this game was rushed out instead. They said, actually, you know what, we're going to wait till the new consoles, or something along that lines happened. And I've heard this theory before, and I've seen it. I'm pretty sure Level Cap has made a video on it as well. But more and more as you think about it, and more as the days go by, the fact that this game has released in the state it has and progressively gotten worse, and the fact that there are so many glaring issues engine-wise, in the sense that they can't even port over weapons from a 5v5 mode into vanilla without it potentially taking until 2020, really does beg the question, was this game supposed to be released, and has it just been completely thrown out into the open market? Now again, I'm going to end this video with some positive news, because I feel as though we need it. Like, the Metro map is going to be pretty damn cool, and I believe that when these updates do start coming out, people are going to see fixes and enjoy them. But ultimately, we shouldn't really be in this place in the first place, and that's really the big problem that I think a lot of people are seeing. And I really do hope for the best for Battlefield. You know I've spent this entire video picking apart decisions and things that have happened, but all in all, the developers at DICE and EA have created some fantastic games before, and I think that's why people are so distraught with the current state of affairs with Battlefield, because it's always been the innovative franchise that has done the best or done things better, and I really do hope we get back to that point at some point. But anywho, it's been me, the Tactical Brit. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.